Hey Health Junkies, Dr. Kraus here. Just wanted to jump in and let you know about a new feature that I'm adding to the podcast. It's the ability to ask me questions. I've had a ton of folks tell me that they would love for me to cover their questions on the podcast, so I'm going to do it. So each week I will be adding a couple of questions that I'm going to answer to each of the podcasts. And if it's a juicy enough question, I just may dedicate a whole podcast to it. So if you're interested in asking a question, head on over to my website at drjkrausnd.com. Check out a blue button on the right-hand side that says Ask a Podcast Question. Hit me up there. Or you can also access the button through my podcast notes, also on my website. So head on over there, ask me some questions. I look forward to answering them soon. All right, let's get on with the podcast.
Hey, health junkies. It's time for The Health Fix. Join your host, Dr. Janine Kraus, as she gives you a dose of what you need to know and do right now to take control of your health from the inside out, to rebel against aging, look damn good, fight stress, and laugh every day.
Hello there, health junkies. Welcome to another episode of The Health Fix. I'm your host, Dr. Janine Kraus, and I have a treat for you today. I have Lane Kennedy Levy on. She is the upgraded woman, and she is going to be talking all about hemp oil and her pathway into helping ladies with the hemp oil and all of that jazz. So say hello, Lane.
Hi!
There she
so
is.
good to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. So, of course, as my audience likes to know stories and we kind of go into background and stuff, tell us, how the heck did you find hemp oil and how did it start to evolve for you?
Oh, this is so, I love sharing about hemp. I love sharing about the benefits. I love sharing my story because I'm hoping that somebody will be able to relate to it. And let's just back up for 20 years. 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with a chronic immune condition, and nobody really knew what immune conditions were. Nobody knew what a gluten intolerance was, really.
Right.
At that time, HIV was really kind of like what people were focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was this walking anomaly of like, what's wrong with you? Why is your hair falling out? Why is your skin yellow? I didn't have hepatitis. I had an immune situation. And that set me up on a long journey of discovering my path of health and wellness, because none of the doctors, okay, this is crazy, Janine, like the doctors at that time were like, we can't help you because we don't know what's wrong with you. And at the time I was living in Los Angeles and going from doctor to doctor, paying a lot of money. And each one of them, we can't help you. And so that's when I was introduced to what I call now, it's biohacking. It's really being my best advocate. And I went on this deep detox and learned about herbs and eating a lot of green things and focusing on the microbiome, which 20 years ago, there was no microbiome. Nobody was talking about the microbiome.
No, not at all. Gosh.
No. And it's been quite a journey for me. I'm really an advocate for women, for anybody actually, to look at their own health, because that's what I had to do to find my wellness. Mm-hmm. And, the doctors told me I would never have a child. Well, lo and behold, I have an 8-year-old who runs my life. and I say that and I share that because I took time to investigate my body and find out what I needed. And about 3 years ago, I was in a dental chair accident. That's what I call it. Mm-hmm. And this dental chair accident led me to have, 2 herniated discs, another herniated low back. It was a disaster. Wow. And I went to physical therapy for 9 months. And after 9 months, they said, we can't do anything for you. And it was excruciatingly pain. And I never had that kind of pain before. Mm-hmm. And it was, with pain comes depression.
Mm-hmm.
With depression comes anxiety. And I started just hating my life. And I've never been one to hate my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was just in this cycle of, I don't want to sleep. I'd have to go to sleep and be all propped up funny with the pillows. And my husband's like, you know, it's just like not okay. And it was just uncomfortable all the time. And I just surrendered. I was like, okay, this is going to be my life. Meanwhile, you know, I'm a coach. I'm a life coach,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm helping ladies and women like upgrade their life and get what they want. Meanwhile, I'm miserable. And I started being a bad mom. You know, I was like, I just don't want to deal with anything anymore. And it was really, really dark. And I was putting on an event with another coach here in San Francisco. And she came over and we were prepping for it and we were chatting about it. And we'd known each other for a while. And she said, you know what, Lane, I want to share this with you. And I was like, what is that? And she just like handed me this little bottle. And I was like, what's that? And I read it. And it was this bottle of nano enhanced hemp oil. And I said, oh, no, you're crazy, girl. And she said, what do you mean? I said, no, I'm not doing that. You know, I'm sober. You know, I don't drink and do drugs. And she said, but this has nothing to do with that. And I said, no, not doing it. And she said, okay, I'm going to leave you some. And I want you to do the research because you of all people who does the research, who's been in this like health hacking world for a long time, more than most, you need to know about the endocannabinoid system and how this is going to help you. And I was like, no. And so she left that night and she left me some samples. And, you know, I woke up the next day with that excruciating pain and I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I put it on topically, actually. Mm-hmm. And I used to call this pain, I used to call it the ice pick pain. Mm-hmm. And I put it on and that I moved my neck and that ice pick was gone.
Wow.
And I was like, what just happened? And so, you know, I'm a good biohacker. I'm a good investigator. I got online and started doing the research. I called my functional medicine doctor and I said, you know, what do you know about hemp? And she's like, oh, it's fantastic. I said, well, how come you haven't put me on this stuff? She's like, actually, that's a great idea. Let's put that into your protocol. It's like, okay, thanks for that. And I got back in touch with Nicole and I said, I need more of this because it helped. And I said, I put it on topically. And she was like, no. You have to put it inside, like under your tongue in your body. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, why? I got the relief. And she's like, no. You want to put it into your body so it can work on this endocannabinoid system so you can reduce the inflammation in your entire body. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh. So that's a little bit about, you know, how I found hemp and my story on like, you know, why I needed it so badly, you know, because I was depressed. I was totally anxious. I was hating my life. I was in pain. I was miserable. And, you know, this little tiny bottle makes it in front of me. And it saved my marriage. It saved my business. It's been a lifesaver for me.
I can absolutely agree. You know, just knowing a lot about hemp, I need to know more about your product, which I'm going to definitely ask you about that for sure, because I'm an acupuncturist as well. I see people with pain all the time. And yes, you're exactly right. You get in pain, you get it, you can't get out of the pain, then becomes you're depressed because you're not doing what you want to do. You're anxious because, oh my gosh, you know, how can I even function with this pain? And then the more pain that comes on, the more anxious you get. And then it just seems to cycle like all of that pain, whatever everything becomes overwhelming. And then that vagus nerve, the fight or flight nerve that I always like to
Yep.
talk about, just like takes over, which of course, as you know from your biohacking and all your research, that the endocannabinoid system works fabulously on, works what it is basically part of the vagus nerve. It's how the vagus nerve can communicate as well. And so amazing stuff there. So I find it interesting that you put it on topically first, because I feel like a lot of people in my practice too are like, well, if I put it on my skin, I'm not doing drugs, right? And there's such a stigma about this, I'm not doing drugs. And that's probably, if you asked your functional medicine doc a little bit more, it's probably why she was like, I don't know, should I tell her this? Do I not? I mean, I jumped that line for so long until I finally was like, okay, I'm trying this myself, because I've seen patients doing well. I'm like, I'm doing it. And holy cow, I love the stuff. So tell me about, I looked on your website and you've got a lot of great frequently asked questions kind of broken down for anybody. You guys, if you're interested, head over to upgradedwoman.com. You will see all the frequently asked questions about the hemp oil. But in particular, I was curious, because you're talking about the liposomal delivery, all of that. I want to hear more about that. Tell us more about that.
Okay. So I love this question. Okay. People will come to me and they will say, okay, I tried that. It was horrible. It sucked. It didn't work for me.
Right.
And I'll say, really? Okay. Tell me more about that. Tell me what kind you used. Tell me the brand you used, because I've done a lot now by this point, I'm a year into this and I've done a lot of research, because that's who I am. I get totally geeky on this stuff. And what I discovered is that, most oils, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Most oils are in MCT oil, in extra virgin olive oil. They're a tincture.
Yeah.
Right. So you put them under your tongue, they kind of burn or sting, and then you swallow it. And it goes through your esophagus, down into your digestive system, through the microbiome, and then you pee it out. Yep. If it even gets down that far, right, with the with your digestive process, depending on how your gut is. If you have a healthy gut, you might get some, but if not, it's just going out. Boom, right? So I was always curious about that. And the oil that I have discovered and what I use, we have this nano-enhanced liposome. And what that means is that Dr. Crishade, the formulator, has taken the phytonutrients, which is the cannabinoid, the phytocannabinoid dial, and he's put it in a little fat bubble that is very similar to our own fat bubbles, the cell membranes. So you take that oil in under your tongue, same thing, and it quickly absorbs right into the mucosal gland right there. So it doesn't have to go down the esophagus into the digestive system and pee it out, because it's already absorbing in your glands, in that part of your body. So there's a quick uptake. And that's when you have that quick uptake, that's when you get genes turning on and off. That's when there's change in the body. So the liposome, the other part about this liposome is that the size of it is smaller than anyone else in the marketplace.
Wow.
And why this is important is, again, it's the purity and being able to get through the cell, your own cell, and be able to dump that phytonutrients into your body. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's a great explanation. Yeah. I talk a lot about on my podcast about turmeric and getting it liposomal, because if it's not liposomal, then you're going to calm the inflammation in your gut. That's great.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna go into your muscles or joints. And so this makes sense, because I think a lot of people are confused. They'll be like, oh, I tried hemp oil. It doesn't work. Oh, because you weren't getting the right kind.
Right. That is it. Exactly. The other thing that'll happen is that they'll try it for 3 or 4 days. They're like, it didn't work. And the thing is that, because I've been working with like hundreds of people by this, at this time, it takes time for the endocannabinoid system, right? Like you get that quick uptake,
Mm-hmm.
and your body didn't get sick or get inflammation overnight.
Right.
So I always share with people, like, let's give it 6 to 8 weeks and see what happens. And what I've found is that people start to take it for one thing. They're like, oh, I got to get rid of these headaches, but then suddenly their depression is done, gone. They can move their fingers more easily, right? Because it starts to work on this endocannabinoid system, which regulates our entire body.
Yes.
Which is magic.
Yes. It is magical. I love it. And I've seen some of your blog posts where you're talking about the neuropeptides, and you were talking about how the neuro connections and working with the mind and getting out of ruts with it. And I find that very, very synergistic with how I see hemp oil too, is it helps the mind too get out of that pain cycle, get out of the negative thought process cycle.
Yep. Well, and again, it's this, we're reducing that inflammation. We're bringing the body down into homeostasis, right? So we're out of that fight or flight, right? So we can actually, link into our brain. How are we thinking? How do we want to make decisions today? Well, I hope that we want to make clear decisions, not in the fog.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Plus also so you could just be you again.
Yeah. Shine your personality, right? Like that's what happens. Like, oh, I'm back. That's what my girlfriend, Nicole, she was like, oh, I'm back. Here I am.
No, I absolutely agree. I think, it's almost like I always tell folks that I know it's like this lotus flower opening. It's like, here I am.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's fabulous. So what I was wondering a little bit about your product in particular, I was looking through, of course, the frequently asked questions too, and I was kind of thinking to myself, okay, so we see, I can see how it's being sourced, but where's it grown? Because a lot of people always ask me, is it being grown in an actual field, or is it being grown hydroponically in a warehouse? Do you know?
Oh, yeah. So we're grown in a warehouse.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's safe. Hemp is not an organic crop, right? But we can have organic dirt. So we know that our plants are grown in organic dirt. The other thing that we want to regulate this industry, right? Because you can find hemp oil from somebody making it out of their garage right now,
That is
so it's really super, super, super important to look at, certificate of analysis and what's their manufacturing plant like. We have the highest standard of manufacturing that you can get. So these kind of little details I think are super important. Hemp is a remedial plant, which means whatever it's planted in, it's going to take up, that dirt. It could be chemicals, it could be mold. So you really want to know that, it's grown in organic soil. And the thing that I love about the certificate of analysis is that it shows, is there any THC in there? Is there any salmonella in there? Is there any mercury in there? So we have a super clean product. Again, other companies are not testing for what we're testing. And the reason being is that we have a formulator, Dr. Chris Shade, who is world renowned for detoxification and making sure that the body is super clean. So he knows about getting things out of the body and putting nutrients into the body.
Huge.
Which I love. I love that. I love that so much.
Well, yeah, because I think part of the problem is, and this is something that I think goes both ways. A lot of my patients are like, well, exactly. Like they imagine that there's some guy with dreads in the back, of a warehouse, not even in the warehouse. He's behind the warehouse at this point, growing the stuff and extracting it much like what you see on Breaking Bad, and so I think that that's kind of the idea. And I mean, here in Washington too, we've got the medical marijuana stuff, and we've got a lot of the edibles and whatnot. And yeah, it's helping to have it regulated because as a doctor, my hardest problem is going, okay, now what kind of dosage should
Yeah.
you take? Which leads me into the next question I had for you about dosage, because obviously there's a standard dosage and then there's a flux kind of dosage. And so I was going to ask you what you've seen in terms of what's the regular dosage and what you've played with for certain things with folks.
Yeah. So the regular, what the bottle suggests is 4 pumps a day, right? And with that 4 pumps, you're getting 16 milligrams.
Okay.
Which is a good amount, if that's a good amount to kind of bring you back into homeostasis. But if you're somebody like me who has had this kind of immune disruption, somebody who's depressed, anxiety, right? I've take 12 pumps some days.
Okay. And that's good to hear. And so like on the days when you're feeling like a little bit more crappy, you can up it. And side effects, have you ever seen anything in terms of too much?
No, have not seen anything too much. The other really cool thing is that my son was chronic ear infections, all the time, tubes, it's been, And since I have him on it, no colds, no ear infections.
Wow.
And I give him, 2 to 3 pumps a day. Wow. And it keeps his immune system fired up. And when he is coming down, or even myself, and I'm feeling a little, I take a little extra, or I give him a pump immediately, and that it just totally combats whatever's coming on.
That's awesome.
Again, because we're dealing with the endocannabinoid system, right? Which can feed all the other systems. We need to up the immune system right now. All hands on deck.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't think about the endocannabinoid system in terms of I think immune, like autoimmunity, lowered immunity in terms of a chronic condition compared to an acute condition. I think a lot of people think of hemp and other cannabinoids as being specifically for chronic issues, but they don't think of them as the acute. And so that's a really good point, and especially use with kids. I think a lot of people are scared, and that's, of course, why I was like, yes, please come on my podcast. Let's talk about this some more, because I don't want people afraid of it. And the other thing that I always tell folks is echinacea, the reason it is for, when you have a cold is because it does work on the endocannabinoid system, but hemp is stronger. Yeah. And so that's awesome.
I mean, it's just that the plants are, medicine, right? Like everything we put into our body, we're dealing with molecular, we're compounds, right?
Yes, absolutely. We are amazing little creatures.
Yeah.
So tell me this, there is this theory that we need a certain amount of THC in a CBD or a cannabinoid-based type of product. And I was thinking, I think I wrote it down right, but you correct me if I'm wrong, 0.03% is what you guys have listed as the THC component in the hemp oil?
So in order for it to be hemp oil, it has to be, below or at 0.03%.
Okay.
The brand that I love and use and share, we're down lower than 0.01%.
Okay.
And we've even gone and done, in-house testing, drug testing, and we haven't had any problems, any kind of notice of any kind of THC showing up. And I know that's important for people who, are in recovery like myself. That's important for people who are working at, a medical facility or at law enforcement. I know that these people have to, take that very seriously.
Yes. And of course I saw your disclaimer that says, you can't say 100%, but at 0.01%, I can't imagine. I mean, it'd be really interesting to see how that would play out, but it sounds like you guys have done some testing. So that is really, really cool. So let's talk about the brand of your product so folks can find it and how it works. How do they get a hold of it? All that jazz. Tell us.
Yeah. So I have a little guide because people want to, know about that. And
Mm-hmm.
people are I'm more than happy to share that, which is over at the upgradedwoman.com/listeners.
Okay.
And I have a guide there. And it's just more information. I feel like the more information that you have, the more empowered you can be about making, these kind of decisions, right, about your health. The product that I use is Prime My Body, and I chose it very specifically because of Dr. Crochet. Dr. Crochet is, again, like I said, world-renowned with his work. And if I'm going to be involved with a company, I want to be involved with, I have standards. I'm a gold star.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in terms of Prime My Body, is this his company? Just so we can give folks a little bit of background.
No.
Okay. It's a
completely set. Yeah.
Okay.
He's just the formulator and the chemist behind it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Sense. And so then folks would go through you to get the Prime My Body product, so the hemp oil. And the hemp oil comes in a bottle, like you were saying. And how big is that bottle? How many ounces?
Yeah, this bottle it's 1.7 fluid ounces, and there's about 25 doses in it. Okay. And, I go through probably 2 bottles a month.
Okay.
During Christmas, I went through 3. Let's just call it like it is.
That's good. I like to hear that. I think that's great for people to hear.
It just is what it was a little, what it is. When my dog passed away, I went through 2 bottles. Like, it depends on what's going on, right? So people could, grab a bottle if they wanted to at upgraded.primemybody.com. And with that, if somebody ever, purchases, I always jump on and do like a little consult, just to help out with dosing and to find out what's going on, because it's so important to just know what's happening with the body before you start taking it.
Absolutely. That's huge. I love that you say that, because I think that's where the biggest issue is with all of these things is, people are willy-nilly trying, and sometimes they're underdosing themselves. Yeah. And sometimes, usually it's never that they're overdosing, to be honest. I always find it that they're like, I'm going to use a half of a drop because, oh my gosh, I might get high. Or like, oh my God, I'm doing drugs and my neighbor's going to find out. So people are like, I'm hiding it. Even my father-in-law and I talked about it, and he was like, so I started using CBD cream, I was so scared to tell me.
It's so interesting to me because, there is no psychoactive component to this, right? And I have some clients, they'll be like, oh, I feel different. Mm-hmm. Are you sure? And I'm like, I'm positive. That's in your head, right? Like that, you're telling yourself you're like feeling high. The other thing is that there is the anandamide. So you have this sense of bliss, this kind of like feeling that happens when the CB1 and CB2 receptors are hit with the phytocannabinoid dial. And people are like, oh, there's got to be, I'm feeling something different. I'm like, no, you're not. It's impossible.
And that's a good point that you mentioned that, because, like you were saying, you're in recovery. I have plenty of patients and some friends who are in recovery, and that's their biggest fear is like, okay, if I get this feeling that I really like and it gives me bliss, I'm going to be addicted. Like, hands down. That's what I've been told. That's what they think.
Yeah, no, because addiction, right, is not being able to stop, not being, right, like addiction is then having your life fall apart. Mm-hmm. So there is no addictive quality to this, right? Like with a pack of cigarettes, you smoke one, and then you smoke another, and then you smoke another, and then you go and buy another pack. With this, you take the oil and you walk away. Mm-hmm. There's no like, oh, come back and have another.
It doesn't have a voice, and
no, it doesn't have a voice. It doesn't call.
Good to know. Good to know. But and those 4, like, let's go back to the basic dose. So those 4 drops, you get those 4 drops in, and that lasts you all day if you were at the basic dosage.
Yeah.
And
I always have people, take 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon.
okay.
Or take 1 in the morning and take 2 in the afternoon and 1 when your kids come home. Like it just depends on, if you're in high tech, you're taking 4 in the morning when you get up and another 4 when you get to the office.
Yeah, that makes
right. It just, everybody's different.
Right. And if you have triggers, and because this is sometimes what I work with patients, with L-theanine, for example, the extract that I use for calming anxiety, same thing I would see for the hemp oil is like, if you have certain triggers, like it's Monday morning, Monday morning's always good for some extra, maybe you high dose in the earlier part of the day. But yeah, I think that's important for people to hear. Now, one of my questions would then also be, is it, even because you're dropping under the tongue, is it important to make sure you don't drink any water right with it, or, and that, I think I have 2 questions now because I have people asking me, what does it taste like? So question 1 is, should it be away from food and water? And 2, what does it taste like?
Yeah. So I say yes, away from food and water, because you want it to get into the mucosal gland, right? You want it to have that quickest, highest uptake. You want it into the body. You can take it with water, not like 5 minutes before or whatever. I wouldn't do that. And then what it tastes like is, so we're a small batch company. And what that means is that, Minute Maid orange juice, it all tastes the same, right? Yeah.
Can't remember the last time I had it, but yeah.
Yeah, right? Like Minute Maid orange juice, or, it's all the same. So with our hemp oil, the citrus blend is different every time.
Cool.
The terpenes are different every time.
Okay.
So sometimes it's a little more peppery or earthy and not as much in the citrus. Sometimes it's more grapefruit. So it just depends, because this terpene blend that we're putting together, again, small batch, is different.
That's good to know on the small batch, because I think for a lot of folks, that's important. There's just more quality in small batches. Plus, also knowing that the flavor is going to be different. But hey, the citrus.
But it's always going to be this like citrusy, peppery blend, because that is what the terpene blend is.
That's cool. Okay.
And some people are like, "Oh, I cannot take it," and some are like, "It's totally fine." My son, he's like, "Okay." Right. And then I give him a gummy bear. Like, I have these organic, sugar-free, whatever gummy bear things, and he's on with his day.
That's awesome. That's one way to get around it. See, folks, if you don't like the flavor, do that, versus, because I keep thinking about, a lot of my patients, we've worked with homeopathic medicine and different things, and if they don't like the flavor of it, then they take water right after, and I'm like, you've just flushed it all out of the system. Cool. Very cool. So we are getting down to the time here, but I want you to tell us anything I haven't asked you about, some amazing fact, whatever you've got, that I didn't ask about, because I went through my whole list.
Oh, you did? Wow. Yay.
Yeah,
we made it.
We did it. I mean, obviously, I could sit on this and I would talk to you for hours, because I love to geek out about this stuff. But I surveyed some of my patients and friends, and we wrote down a list of the common questions, because they told me mine were too complicated and nobody cares about the details I wanted to know about.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So
I can share. The price.
Yes, that's important. Yes,
that's an important component on this. And I just want to go back to the liposomal delivery and extra virgin olive oil, or MCT oil.
Yeah.
Because I know here in San Francisco, there's a product called Treatwell, and you can get Treatwell for, some of the dispensaries sell it for, $49. Some are $79, and, you can get it online for $119 or something. Right.
Right.
And our bottle retail is $149.
Okay.
And people are like, I think that's expensive. And I literally like dropped my mouth at that. I'm like, you think that's expensive for getting absorption rate of 60, 70, 80%? When you look at a MCT or a extra virgin olive oil and you're getting like 6 to 10%? Because what we know is that we are what we absorb, right? The microbiome, the mucosal gland, and getting in that phytonutrients changes everything.
Yeah.
So when somebody says, oh, that's too much, I think, oh, that's such a shame, because you're suffering with depression, or you're suffering from sciatica, or whatever it is, right? And I'm not making any claims that this oil will fix you, but at that price, I'm always like, just try it and see what happens.
I know. Plus, it's like you could go out to dinner and spend a heck of a lot more in one night than, I mean,
a bottle of wine and dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom. Way over that. Plus,
a coffee habit. Let's just talk about Starbucks habits.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, seriously. Yeah. And I mean, I think a lot of people, if they think about all the habits that they have, maybe it is alcohol and what they're spending on bottles of wine. I mean, I have some patients, it's $20, $20, $30 bottle of wine a night. Well, multiply that just so that you can sleep because you have that much pain. Well, this is something that, I think well worth its weight. Plus, the calories aren't going to add up as much and your liver's going to thank you. So no, with the 149, I don't think that's crazy at all. I think, if you're doing, like you were saying, in terms of 25 doses, that's almost a month plus 2 bottles on average in terms of a month. Okay. So that's $300 approximately. Well, I mean, easy. My husband and I, 2 dinners out, boom, gone.
Yeah. And if you become a preferred customer, it goes down to 119. So
okay.
It's like, you can't, again, it's a matter of like wellness, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
Making good choices, or just not even good choices, just making choices for your mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's important. I mean, patients come to me all the time and they're like, I will pay anything to feel better. And then when you give them something, and then they're like, well, I don't want to pay that. It's like, really? Oh, okay. And obviously, you're not guaranteeing the things like you just said. I'm not going to, it's not going to fix everything if you have a ton of different things going on, in which that's where, you do need a functional med doc, or you need a naturopathic doctor to help you, or a health coach to help you with, getting out of your own way. Because one of the biggest things that I think about with hemp oil in particular is it's helping you to change your neural pathways. It's helping you to change your brain.
Yes. So important.
It's just, get the brain inflammation down, get back to yourself, and then, let the rest of the issues that you have, whether it's weight or whether it's, whatever it may be, it's all going to kind of fall away. So, yeah, I'm excited to try this out myself because, of course, you've now sold me. You were talking about the liposomal delivery, and I have to ask because I'm a geek, and I don't, I hope that the doc talked to you about this, the phosphatidylcholine, in terms of being the driver there, for the liposomal. Do you know why he chose phosphatidylcholine at all? Any idea?
Closest to our body's cell.
Cool. Yeah, because
so that this being able to meet our cell, the phosphatidylcholine, matches the same kind of molecular compound as our body fat, right? Like that's what it is.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool that you use that. That was my geek out question because I was like, oh, phosphatidylcholine, I use it for brain health, just in and of itself. And so I was like, I wonder if being the liposomal component, in addition to why he, embedded the hemp or the cannabinoid. That's a tongue twister. I just got Invisalign. My tongue's having troubles trying to talk. But the phosphatidylcholine is cool because for me, it's like, wow, it's like a double brain thing.
Yes, you get it. I love it.
Yeah. So
good.
Full on geek here.
So good. Yeah. He's very, very specific. Like he's won awards for his brain, right? And like creating compounds. So he's very specific with every ingredient, making sure that each ingredient is specific for that quick uptake to be able to regulate not only the endocannabinoid system, but when you have that kind of quick uptake, you start to change the gene profile.
Yeah, you mentioned
so
that.
It's so good. It's so good, Jenny. It's so good.
Awesome. Well, Lane, this is amazing. I probably could talk to you for about 4 hours on getting into the nitty gritty of the detox aspect of it. Also, this FAH gene, the FAAH gene.
Oh, yeah.
That also fascinates me.
Yep.
So I am thinking that maybe if you're up for it, maybe we do a repeat, like another podcast where we talk a little bit about the detox component and what happens with the body with that and the FAH gene.
Yes, I love it. I'm in.
Okay, good deal. So we will plan for that. At this point, folks, I am going to sign off, and we are going to go and chat offline. And you all who have been listening, go over to upgradedwoman.com for more information on the hemp oil. Prime My Body hemp oil. Go get some now. I am going to, and I'm pretty much ordering it for my whole family. So there you have it, folks. Thanks for listening to this podcast. And thank you, Lane, for a lovely, lovely show today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to The Health Fix, the podcast all about taking control of your health, rebelling against aging, and having fun every day. A lot of patients ask me, do you think I'm aging too fast? So, I created an evaluation checklist for you to see for yourself. Plus, I created a resource guide to help you slow down the aging process right now. You can find it for free on my website, drjkrausnd.com. If you like this podcast, help get the word out to others by liking it and rating it. If you'd like more natural health tips and want to join our Facebook community where I interact daily, click on the Join Group button on our website at drjkrausnd.com.